All right, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Blokes podcast. It's the Whiskey Bravo podcast today. I'm Nick Sutherland, the Sultan of Steel, joined as always by the Sultan of Strength, both inner and outer strength, Ryan. Oh, the gun show has it.
Woo!
I know.
Wow.
The pipes
Didn't
are
realise
bursting.
I had tickets.
Front row tickets, one each, 1, 2. Yep, front row seats,
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Privileged.
Beautiful.
Nico, thanks for the introduction. I felt a weight off my shoulders not having to do the intro. I was able to, I know what you feel like, just sitting back here, just going, oh, introduce me, talk to me about my guns.
And I haven't finished the intro yet because I'd like to announce to both Ryan and our guest Dan and all the listeners that we are officially, I've done the research, we are officially the number one lived experience mental health podcast on the southeast region of Melbourne.
Woo!
Dun, dun, dun.
Fucking
I think we're
right
the
between
only
the goals, mate.
I think we're the only one, but
I think we're number 2 in Finland as well.
we are number 2 in Finland for sure. Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Accolades, bros.
I know. Well, once again, the ego didn't jump up. I was saying it to Haas before. What was I saying about? Oh, we reached 1,000 followers on Instagram. Mindfit did. And when it
Oh my goodness.
when it said someone's added you as a friend or whatever, or followed you, and I was like, oh, and I was looking at my profile. I'm like, oh, that's 1,000. The ego didn't even blip on the radar. I'm like, come on, wake up, you bastard. This is we're meant to have some adrenaline rush or something right now, apparently. But
Oh yeah.
nothing.
That might be a good
It's so good
place,
through the door then.
good place to kick off, because I reckon that's an interesting topic, that whole, because I've had that as well, Nick, where there's little like milestones that you tick off, and in the past you're like, I would have been like, yeah, let's go celebrate, you're a fucking hero. But now it's like that thing isn't there. It's kind of it's like neither good or bad. It's kind of this equanimous ego that's like, meh.
It was replaced with this deep sense of peace, and it was so much. It wasn't the dopamine hit, the instant gratification or anything. It was just this very internal, deep sense of peace. Like, I don't need to have a reaction right now. This is wonderful, and it lasts for longer.
How's your ego, Dan?
I must say that I don't really notice many of those ticks either. I don't kind of, it's kind of like when something happens and other people around you go, oh, that's really great. You're really good. And one of those stories, I don't think it was big in my household, that kind of got a rise to something. I mean, do good, do the best you can, because similarly with my brother, he's a sound engineer, does a lot of TV shows, and he's been nominated for a lot of awards. And similarly, I don't think he even really realized it. He didn't really mention it to anybody. And then somebody in the family mentioned, oh, Joel, you've been nominated for these awards. And he was like, oh, I guess that's all right. And it's kind of, I was like, mate, where's the ego? Where's the color? Like, just didn't even register. So I guess maybe a bit genes, maybe a bit conditioning, bit this, that, and the other. But I also think it's interesting when I'm interested in your guys' experience when you're meditating, your sense of where you're putting the focus of your awareness. And I certainly, you feel this awareness expanding often at times, but then you can notice too the locale of your sense of self can actually move around. Have you guys noticed that?
I must have been meditating in my sleep last night, or I was meditating on an astral plane. I was doing something because I woke up, I came back into consciousness this morning with a very profound experience of being, of not only hearing my heart beating, but being in the heartbeat and being in the space between the heartbeat. It was I think I must have started in my ear canal or something, but in it, not just that faint or when you got a headache, not that throbbing noise, but actually in it, and then moved all the way down into. And it was the clarity of that experience was amazing. I was just like,
that's unreal. Yeah, no, I've played with it a bit as well. I did some work with a lady for about 12 weeks. Shout out to Leonora from Embodied Truth. And a lot of the work is what you're talking about, Dan. We were really playing with that sense of I, or that sense of self, or that where the witness is sitting. And it was really interesting because it was kind of my witness would kind of be behind my head here somewhere. But as we started to do different work throughout the weeks, it would start to shift. And one of the big things kind of ties into what you said, Nick, is I would have these experiences. Could be my heartbeat, could be something in my stomach, could be a sensation somewhere else. But I would be looking at it from that place of the witness behind my head. And then eventually, as I was doing this work, she was helping me go, instead of looking at it from back there, can you take your awareness to there and be in there? And that was just a massively different experience to me, because instead of looking at things, you're like right where that sensation is.
It's like with Ram Dass. I think I've been listening to too much Ram Dass lately. I got home singing Krishna, Hare Krishna last night. Walked in and Emma and the kids are just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Anyway, so and Ram Dass was talking about meditation.
Are you going to change your name, Nick?
Nick Das Krishna.
Nick Das Krishna.
Nick Nadas?
In the meditation podcast.
Das.
He was talking about meditating and the Vipassana meditation. So, and on the last day of the 10-day Vipassana meditation, we're instructed to pass our awareness like a rock from the outside of our head and our temple, through the temple, through the head and out the other temple. And that takes about an hour to do, and it feels real weird. It feels like you're getting surgery or something, but someone's numbed it. You can feel it, but there's no pain or discomfort or anything associated with it. But Ram Dass was talking about this meditation, and you can meditate observing a candle, and just all of a sudden you're experiencing the shifting of the candle, the flame, but then all of a sudden you are the flame. And so you stop witnessing and you become, and there's this, this oneness. He said something wonderful. He goes, well, there's no such thing as soulmates. There's no plural, because we're all one. There is just a soul. There is soulmate. We are soulmate. We are the one.
A soulmate.
Yeah. I'm a soul man.
I love that. Yeah, we're talking about, this open awareness, isn't it? And a lot of studies have shown now, if you want to get into a really nice meditative state, as in have those brain waves lower from a high beta down into an alpha and even into a theta, we create this open awareness. So our awareness starts to move, from one location to many locations in the body, to the whole body, and then outside of the body. And that's a beautiful state to be. And that's a meditation I actually used to take clients through a bit, where we'd focus on put attention on the different areas of the body. So top of the head, eyebrows, would move through the whole body, then encapsulate the whole body, then move to outside the body, the room, the building, the town, and we'd eventually see how aware we could be of our surroundings.
Hey, Dan, do you, as you're talking about the different megahertz, the levels of consciousness, and we're dropping down. So you got the beta, alpha, theta, delta, but the gamma is above them, and gamma is high. So when I was hyper aware, 20 minutes to eat the orange, and that, it took me 3 days to come down. It's what's the? Does anyone know? Because the we're talking about lowering the vibration, the frequency, but then we get into gamma, which is this high state. So
what that's the transcendental experience oftentimes, is that gamma, but it works. So Dr. Joe Dispenza has done some great work measuring brainwave states, and he can kind of predict when someone's going to go into gamma and have this transcendental experience. But it's actually gamma will happen as you go down. So it's like you go down to a
That's
very
not simple.
yeah. So instead of up, you go down, and eventually it goes such a slow brainwave that all of a sudden it shoots up into this gamma, which is massive amounts of energy. And whether you say, that's you're downloading things or whatever, it's a mystical experience. But yeah, it's by going down that it somehow pings up to this high energy state. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would think of it kind of being like this amount of peace, that there's stillness and peace that's resonating at a frequency that you can actually hear those upper registers. One of the experiences that the Buddha talks about is that, heavenly sounds. One of his apprentices comes up and sort of says, mendicants comes up and says, "Oh, I'm hearing heavenly sounds," and he says, "Oh yeah, heavenly sounds." And to me, and I'll loop back to this, but I noticed that when you're very still, you can hear this high frequency humming. And I think different traditions have different words for that, different concepts. There's kind of, and the way you guys are talking about plunging down and going back up, the Kundalini rising, and all these sort of different ways of mapping at the transcendent experience of no self. And it's interesting that seems to be a frequency that you can only notice when you're deeply peaceful, but it's a very high frequency. It's interesting that I think it's important to make reference to all those things, and to also because we were talking about ego, and it's important to loop back with all of these experiences. There's two sides to the coin, and we're talking about very much the everything side. I am everything. There is no me. There's just everything of which I'm a part. And the flip side of that, which is the Advaita Vedanta side, which is I am nothing. And so what happens with the ego, the dissolving in the ego of I'm everything, so you don't have this sense of, oh, that's amazing, how incredible I am, that, I'm this God, or I'm interconnected, or I'm somehow different from everybody else, is very much counterpointed with there is no self. I am nothingness. I'm beyond all experience. And I think trying to kind of go for one and not the other, or discount all experience for just I am nothingness, that can become nihilistic. And I am everything, I'm so grand, I'm expansive, I'm incredible, can end up disconnecting you from other people, like I'm special, or this kind of ego sense to it. And so holding those somehow in this very non-intuitive kind of understanding. It's like, how can I be everything and nothing? What are you talking about? The mind can't really make sense of that.
No, the mind needs that duality to kind of properly grok what's being said. But yeah,
but we're not the rational mind anyway. So that's just in existence for this chapter of our soul's life and whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's far out, man. It's like we're diving into Ram Dass again.
hey, you brought up dreaming before, Nick. You said you had your meditative dream. I had a really cool experience last night with dreaming.
I don't believe I did mention it, but if you've interpreted it as I spoke about my dream, then that's wonderful.
So what happened? I had this dream. I think it was last night or the night before. Just the memory came up. But anyway, I was playing golf, and I had Tommy, my boy, and he was just kind of walking along. But I was playing when I first got obsessed with golf, when the bug hit me when I was about 14 years old, and I was a member at Croydon Golf Club where my dad was. And I play like nearly every day. And I just knew that course back to front. And anyway, last night I played a bunch of holes of that course. And it was one of those dreams. It wasn't lucid as in I knew I was dreaming, but I was very in the experience. Like I noticed all the trees, the undulation of the greens and the fairways and everything. And it was really cool because I played these few holes and enjoyed it. And my son was there. But like in reality, that course got demolished years ago and it's a housing estate now. So I could never actually go there and have that experience of playing, but I did in my dream. I think that's so amazing that about dreams, how we can do that.
I did a similar thing in a meditation. I played because I'd heard about the prisoner of war. Can't remember his name, in Japan, and he played his home golf course over and over every day in his head.
So he wouldn't go crazy.
Yeah, and they kept him sane. And then when he actually got home and recovered, he went out and shot the lights out and, played an amazing round of golf after not touching a golf club in 5 years or something. And they're like, how did you do that? He goes, I've played this course every day, sometimes 3 times a day for the last 5 years. And
wow.
So I played around with that in the meditation. And the next round that I went out, I lost my mind, and I focused on this breathing and just connecting with, I was just out by myself. There was no one else on the course. And I shot the absolute lights out without trying, without even thinking. It was just, I was just in the tree. I was in the grass. I was in the air. I was in the everything. It was, I got in my car to drive home. I'm like, I'm not sure if I can drive home. I'm not sure if it's safe for me to drive home.
Yeah.
I might drive through everything.
I'm drunk on God. I shouldn't be driving.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts on both of you. The Ram Dass coined the phrase, we're all just walking each other home. And I love that, and I've been doing a lot of work with clients with that philosophy. And spoiler it for everyone listening, none of us get out of this alive.
Oh, bullshit.
Sorry.
I'm eternal.
Sports.
When did this happen?
Yeah, who decided this? Is this the government? Is this part of the COVID restrictions? This is bullshit.
The ego doesn't get out of this alive. All right.
Death is just a disease. There's got to be a cure for it, Nick. Come on.
The leading cause of death is birth. So stop being born and you'll stop dying.
We need a vaccine for that, surely.
So we're all on this conveyor belt. We're all going to tip off the end of it at some stage. So we can walk ourselves home a bit more gently. And when we're okay, we're in a position to walk others home. And an example of that is just tiny little things every day. And the clients that are listening, they've heard me talk about this, but for those that haven't, it's just like letting someone in traffic. Just like, yeah, I'm going to let you in. It's just we're walking each other home. We're all heading to the same space. I had a client said the other day, and this is a beautiful example of it. He was at Vic Roads or somewhere, registering his car, and this woman turned around with a big slushy and just spilt it all over him. And because he's been really focused on this and doing the work around this, he instantly, without any conscious thought, just went into his Buddha nature, into compassion and love. And he was like, are you okay? And that was his first question. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, we're okay, but are you okay? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, okay, wonderful. And have a lovely day. And, she was in suffering. She was embarrassed and feeling ashamed or whatever. And he didn't compound it. He didn't deepen that suffering for her. He alleviated a lot of her suffering by walking her home. And he said the feeling that he had for the rest of the day after coming to the awareness of that he did that was so peaceful for him.
Yeah, I had a similar experience once, actually, now that you bring up that instance. And I think having something heightened happen can kind of push you into that state, especially if you're doing some kind of practice or you're finding that space. When I was in high school and we were metalwork, I'd finished my work early. We were making kind of a steel box for a pencil case. And some of it involved punching and then drilling. And some of the sides, as you drilled them, you had to drill through multiple pieces of the plate steel. Yeah. Remember that? So I'd done my box and I went over to help one of my classmates and wasn't really thinking and just kind of helping her. And, okay, this is what you got to do. Take that, and blah, blah, blah. And I squeezed together a couple of those pieces so she could drill through them simultaneously, and I punched them. And I said, just take that. Yep. And you just lift it up and drill it and whatever. And she started to drill and went off the side and into my finger. And similarly, I mean, yeah, shouldn't have your finger there. Exactly, first response. But I was kind of like, I immediately kind of was definitely separate from the experience of what was happening in my body, you know, and it experienced a lot of pain very quickly. But interestingly, I think what drove it further is that she got so upset, you know, the blood kind of went everywhere and she just started shaking and crying and just like was really, perturbed by the whole experience. And I just kind of, just grabbed my hand and grabbed my finger or whatever. And I went, oh, are you okay? Are you all right? And she was like, oh my God, and just totally freaking out. And I kind of said, let's
short circuit them sometimes because it's the pattern interrupts, and so they're all, oh my God, and when you turn around and say, are you okay? It's so outside their frame of reference and what they're used to. They're like,
it's what? Like they're going to be angry at me, and then they get the opposite, and they're like,
yes, absolutely. I think it is partly fear that they're like, what is this other person going to do? What's going to happen?
Well, they're going immediate fight flight. It's straight into anxiety. So
absolutely.
Have you got one more house? Have you got an example?
I'm trying to think. I think in those moments, it's kind of you said we're all walking each other home, and we've been talking about everyone being one and connected and all that. And I think you kind of realize that when you do a selfless act or something that you don't have to for someone else, you realize you're kind of helping yourself as well. I think that's why it feels so good, because it kind of reminds you of that, hey, we're all in this shit together, even though there's fighting and there's hate and there's, online rubbish and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, when we really connect with someone eye to eye in those moments, I think it does remind us that, hey, we're all in this together and we're all going to be okay.
I said to Em last night, she had some things to do and she didn't have a great night's sleep. So I got up and did some things for her. And she sent me a message later going, oh my God, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. And I was like, well, if you have that to do, I have that to do. So I don't see it as me and you, I see it as we. So we have that to do. And she's like, oh, you've been listening to Ram Dass again, haven't you?
I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful, Nick. Because often we just do.
You go, Dan.
We kind of feel like, I've got to be on top of my own stuff all the time. I've got to be so independent and self-sufficient, and this whole sense, it isolates us. And I think what's often happening in modern life is it always felt like, we was the tribe, we was the collective. We've got this to do. We're all surviving. We're doing this. It wasn't like, okay, you go do the dishes and you do the laundry, and you didn't do your task.
Yeah, this is rules.
Right.
But the added bonus that was I didn't expect her to operate in the same model as I am. I am in the we model, and that's working for me, but she doesn't have to be in the we model. I don't need her to think the same way as I'm thinking, which was a wonderful sense of peace as well.
And being in that, Nick, you'd be more likely to draw into that space, interestingly, rather than kind of like, oh, well, chatting about it and just like, and trying to reach consensus, it's just like holding that space for yourself.
Well, that's the clock thing has. It's that if someone's operating on that energetic level, then other people are gonna.
They'll come into attunement.
Yeah, come into attunement. It reminds me of a funny metaphor I heard about, we're all the one entity. So I am you and you am I, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like if the body's walking along and the feet stumble and the body falls over and the hands hit the pavement and get grazes, the hands aren't going to then start yelling at the foot, you fucking idiot foot, and start punching because it instinctively knows that the foot is a part of the hand and vice versa. If it punches the foot, it's going to hurt itself. And we as humans have forgotten that if I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. So we can look at it from that funny metaphor perspective and have a think about your partners or your kids or people driving past. If you yell at them and get angry at them, you're getting angry, you're yelling at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mind can grasp that and play around with that, throughout the day at times, and it's so much fun when you look at it.
Yeah, because we kind of know that intuitively, because whenever we have those, and I've had them many times in my life, those real ego moments where you feel like you've won over someone. And in that moment, the ego has this little bit of gratification. It's like, yeah, I did it, I won. But then like a little bit later, you're sitting by yourself and there's another part that's like, you didn't win. This is not gratifying to the soul. Then, but you don't realize, see, like, no, shut up, ego, come back, we win. A good framework for me that's helped me is really what you've been talking about. It's like we have this ego structure because I'm here to live Ryan's life. I'm not here to live Nick's life or Dan's life or anybody else's life. That'd be boring if there was someone else the same as us, So I have this ego structure that is formed by my unique experiences of life, so I can live a unique life that no one's ever lived before and no one ever will. But at the same time, knowing that we're kind of all going back to the one place, we came from the same place, and we're all connected in that essence. And then you get, like Nick said, you can have fun with it. It's like a game. It's like I'm playing the Ryan character at the minute, and yeah, it gets a bit serious sometimes and a bit intense. But you've got to keep reminding yourself, hey, I'm here for a game. I'm here for an experience. And, we don't, and if you come from that place, I find that I don't want to belittle other people. I don't want to get one up over other people. I just want to do my thing and love.
And all of these traditions, lead us towards finding those spaces. There's practices in Stoicism, there's practices in Taoism or Buddhism or any of the great traditions. And you can use those type of things to creatively find what might be a fun practice in the moment. One thing I've been doing with my boys, because they're very much in that establishing themselves, competitive and going to be dominant.
Learn what suit they're wearing.
Right.
Yeah. How old are they?
9 and 12.
Yep.
And one thing, but they're very suggestible. Kids are very open, and if they feel like something's going to be fun or different or a new experience, most of the time they'll pick up on it. And rather than try and do, I find myself, I love to kind of go into this lecture mode and teaching mode, and they're just like, boom, just like, you're like, oh no, I'm in teacher mode. They've shut down. And so I said, how about we try and play the game? We had this card kind of game we were playing. I said, how about every time somebody else gets something really good, we cheer and we celebrate their victory rather than feeling bad, because this is the standard response. Somebody else wins, I must be losing. So I said, how about we cheer each other? And we'll each have our turn of winning. We'll each, it'll all go around. But how about when somebody else is winning, we say, that's great. Good on you. You won. Even though it's a competitive game, and even though you're in opposition, kind of understanding that other person winning is you win from that too. And that enjoying the game, we get to continue enjoying the game rather than getting to the end of being like, I lost and I'm tantruming and I'm so upset and this kind of thing.
You're a terrible,
interestingly,
mother for programming and to be compassionate and in gratitude and selfless. Like, how dare you? Where do you get off parenting in that manner? It's disgusting.
Yeah, so it's a really cool experiment, and interestingly, I'm definitely all for the fact that when you do celebrate, encourage others, this is a natural place in which we can all find our own flow. And so even if you feel like I'm a very selfish person, let's say that's part of your track, I want a lot of stuff from me, I want to win, I want all this, there's a bit of a cheat there. You can say, you know what? The more I help others, the more they're prone to help me. you know, and you can be a bit tricky with your ego. You can kind of cheat it a bit.
Really do. We don't really do anything unless there's something in it for us. Even the act of giving, I'm going to feel good. So the ego is front and center all the time. Anyway, I'm going to go and work in a soup kitchen for a month and then just feed the poor. But I'm going to feel really good doing that.
And I'll tell other people that I'm doing it and sound really good. Yeah.
I had a long discussion with my stepfather once about whether altruism is actually is possible. You know, and he was like, "Not possible. You're always trying to feed that little. I get a good sense. I help somebody. I did something good."
But that's okay. That's the thing. It's like I'm doing it for myself, but it's helping other people, as opposed to, well, I'm going to make myself feel good by belittling someone else. Then, you know, it's just being able to admit it and having a laugh at it. Well, what you're saying about having a shortcut, I had that with a client a little while ago who had this big vision, you know, helping people, empowering women who've been disempowered and all that. But had this thing that, if I'm going to be selfish if I make all this money. So guess what? Wasn't making much money. So it's like, well, let's just play it a little trick. And it's like, we use this visualization where I'm like, what represents imagine all these women that need like the lights turned on, which means they're empowered, and see this whole vast sea of women in front of you, and you touching a few in the front row and lighting them up, and then them touching a few, and you empowering more and more women. The more money that you make is a direct representation of the amount of women you're lighting up and setting on fire. Then she's like, oh, okay, I've got to make a lot of money then. I'm like, yeah, you do, because a lot of women need to be empowered. So it's just these little tricks, you come in the back door kind of thing, and get it going that way. Because so many people, especially in this, you know, helping, you know, spiritual, all this kind of crap, there's always this issue where, you know, being selfish is a bad thing. I'm like, selfish isn't a dirty word at all. We all should be selfish.
Well, looking after yourself is a form of selfishness. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
A mother saying, no, I'm going to go and have a massage. That's an act of selfishness, but it's important.
And it's great for everybody in the family, though.
Yeah, I'm selfish in that I only see a certain amount of clients a week because I need to look after myself and make sure I can turn up and be the best I can be. So, it's an interesting one.
And the Buddha told a counterintuitive story like that. He sort of said, who's the most important person? You know, and everybody's like, oh, somebody else and giving and all this sort of stuff. He said, you're the most important person to you.
I say that in the first fundamental, Dan, you know, you are the most important person in the world, because without you here, nothing else exists. So
it's true. There's the tree can fall in the forest, but if I'm not watching it, does it happen?
You know? Turn up, man.
So people would say like, oh, Buddha, but you're not selfish. Buddha left his family to go and become enlightened. He abandoned them.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Dan moonlights as a massage therapist, Ryan. So, and
what does that term mean? Moonlights. What he's as soon as the sun goes down and everything's dark, he sneaks out of the house with his massage table.
Yeah, with his purple light, soft purple light in the back end.
Yeah. I wonder skulking around the streets. Only when it's a full moon, he's skulking around with his massage table, howling at the moon, giving massages.
I think you guys have beautiful romantic imagery. I think it's simply probably just comes down to the fact that you don't quit your day job. You know, so don't quit your day job.
All right,
your day job.
That makes sense.
Moonlighting, do it at night, do it in your off hours.
Man, stop being so logical. Let us be fantastic.
Sorry,
way more boring.
You guys were just like
the moon one,
and the amazing howling of the moon
with the rose in between his teeth,
the haze and the stars and the moonlight.
Moonlighting simply means you haven't given up your day job. Oh, wow.
Anyway, where are you going with this, Nick?
Yeah, you must be fun. You must be fun at parties, Dan.
Boys, I believe it means you haven't given up your day job. In fact, I happen to have Googled it here, and it's affirming that assertion is correct.
Just slowly back away with that drink.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, someone's calling my name. Sorry.
I went for a massage the other day, and I was just in a shopping mall, one of those Chinese massage places, not super certain if they're qualified or what qualifications they have or anything. But anyway, this dude comes in after, it was weird. It was like an initial consultation first, which is a bit different to how it's been in the past. And there's a new manager, and she's a nurse from Singapore. So she had this very professional bedside manner. And she's like, oh, and where are you? Oh, yes, that's tight. And this is tight. And I just played a couple of rounds of golf. And she's like, oh, yes, that's, what do you do for work? Oh, you sit all day. And okay, so that's going to, and I'm like, wow, this is quite thorough. Anyway, she hands me over to this dude and tells him what's going on. And he's like, okay. And he's getting into it. And I started noticing something I haven't noticed. I've only noticed in one other therapist. And I just instinctively had the thought, this man is a healer and he doesn't know he's a healer. And I felt him work with my body instead of against it. And it was a really amazing experience because it was like he tuned into my body. And he, a lot of masseuses will just gotta get in there and elbows and body slams and suplexes and flip you around. And this dude was just like, no, okay, the body's reacting to that. It doesn't like that. So I'm going to back off a little bit and I'm going to go over here. And he just worked at that level. And I walked and I felt sick. I felt sick in my stomach afterwards. And I wasn't alarmed at it. On a deeper level, I thought he's released some trauma in some of those muscles. He's released some toxins, and gut health is linked to mental health and blah, blah, blah. And I wondered what's happening within my systems right now. And this is okay to feel this way. This isn't a bad thing or a negative experience. This is just necessary. And yeah, I know. I'm going back today, and I've never had sort of that deep of an experience in massage.
Yeah, that's awesome. I completely agree with your read on that, Nick. That's very much how I see it, and flowing with the body and the release of the toxins and any trauma or any emotional holding. People will cry during a massage. It happens surprisingly more than you'd think. Yeah. And that's a release. The body's releasing in lots of different ways.
Well, it's being looked after. It's being cared for. It's being heard and listened to and acknowledged and validated. And so it really made me think about the way that I work with people. I said, and I had the thought while I was laying on the table, like, this is how I work with people and their feelings. And this man's doing it on a physical plane, but I do it on an emotional, psychological plane. But I can't come up against their trauma, and I don't. It's just you're working very gently with it, and it can be multi-layered and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was just that. Yeah, and tears come out in session a lot. And when people feel vulnerable, I had a client turn up the other day, and he sat down, and I just looked at him and smiled, and he burst into tears. And I'm like, yeah, I've really got to stop doing this to people. And he was like, I can't remember the last time I cried. And I went, wonderful, just keep going. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, just keep going. This is wonderful.
Let it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so nice for my body to have that same experience.
Yeah, what you said, Dan, like, because I get a lot of referrals and people who've been to massage, and because we do hold a lot of, traumatic imprints and energy in the fascia. And a lot of people have, been for a massage and go, yeah, it's touched on one spot, and I just tears, memories coming up, all of that kind of thing. And I'll try and, in session, get people to, if they're noticing a tender area, just put their own hand on there and start to work it. And because all of this stuff's interconnected at the end of the day.
I cried when I started Pilates for the first time, my first Pilates session, 18 years after I did my knee. And I was holding a pink 1.5 kilo dumbbell, and she just asked me to lift it up. And I did that about 4 times, and then I just started having this emotional release. And I'm like, why am I crying? She's like, I don't know. Yeah. And she had no idea. And I'm like, looking at this pink dumbbell, 1.5 kilos, looking at me covered in tattoos and XR. And it was such a surreal experience. But luckily I knew what was happening on some level, and I just kept going. Yeah. But it was amazing.
Well, I think that's too why, making mindfulness and awareness the the foundation of any therapy, whether it be, physical or mental or emotional, whatever you want to say, where you're not bringing a level of judgment. You're not bringing, the mind's not thinking it has to fill in the gaps for you, where it's like, well, why is this happening? Well, the mind loves to answer questions that are unanswerable. It says, oh, I'll tell you why you're crying. It's this, that, and the other. I'll create any meaning you like. You can have whichever one you like. But being like, oh, well, I'm crying. I'm having this experience. And some overlap there that I thought I have a history in performing arts. And something that occurred to me very young with performing arts is that you savor, you very much enjoy the experience of whatever character that you're playing. So you're playing somebody evil, somebody who does horrible things that you would never do, but you savor that experience. You're not there judging the character. You're not there being like, in fact, you're trying to get into the headset of how would somebody do this? And I can enjoy and appreciate this experience that I'll never have in the real world because I'll never get to behave like this. But I can very much loosen those judgments and I can just allow this experience and savor it for what it is. And that's very similar to mindfulness. It's like, I'm not looking at making a judgment. I'm just being peaceful and equanimous. I'm crying now and we'll savor this. I was surprised this morning when I looked up the definition for pathos and poignancy. And both of those words to me had this, they could have a variety of connotations, but I thought that they could very much be on the positive spectrum of deep feeling. Oh, this has a sense of pathos. This has poignancy. It means a lot.
Pathos linked to pathology. Yeah.
Interesting. Of course. Now that you say it, that makes a lot of sense. And both of those definitions had a negative connotation.
Wow.
And I was kind of like, well, where's the word that means depth of feeling with joy or with savor or with I'm just feeling deeply about this because it's important, it has meaning, it carries great weight. Because I often feel that great weight of, and I wouldn't say I was feeling blissful or I was feeling, amazing and joyous and all this sort of stuff. I would just feel deeply like this life is amazing. This world. Oh, here we go. Confused, surprised, despair, happy. So lift up the happy side. I want us to lift it up a bit. Accept and powerful, hopeful, sensitive, playful.
It sounds like you were feeling content, though.
What's that?
It sounds like you were feeling content. Or I love liberated. When we talk to clients about, they're in distortion often when they're in suffering and they're heightened. They're in spaghetti brain or in distortion. And when they come to a deep sense of clarity, it's just they have a liberated mind, a mind free of distortions. And so they're like in that Buddha nature, in the Buddha state, they're seeing the reality of what is. They're seeing things so clearly without any judgment or bias or attachment or anything like that. So it's just a very deep, liberated, freeing, contented peace. It's just that,
yeah. Well, maybe there's a new word in there somewhere. Shakespeare used to make up words. Beyonce's made up words. It happens.
What's she made up?
Bootylicious.
Oh, were you feeling bootylicious?
It's in the dictionary.
Really?
I was reading this book. I was reading one of is it Philip Shepherd? He's why it's quite deep stuff. And he's come up with a number of words where he's like, there wasn't a word for this. So I took these two words and this is the origins, like Nick quickly said about pathos and pathology. It's like, I took that word, and I mixed it with this other one because there wasn't really a word. And there you go, use it if you like, So like,
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's your homework, Dan, to come up with the word for how you're feeling.
All right. I think it's probably some poignancy, but some deep joy, appreciation of feeling. Yeah. I'll work
Yeah,
on
I think
it.
it's a hard one because I think I get where you're going, because there's this, like we said, a deep appreciation of feeling, because it doesn't have to be, for me, you know, joy or all that kind of stuff, or peace. Even in moments of sadness or feelings of grief, it's like I'm feeling this deeply and I'm not drowning in it, but it's okay to be here. Yeah, but whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm experiencing, I'm giving it the full depth, and it doesn't have to be positive, negative, just whatever's arising.
That's the liberated mind, free of attachment. So here's an interesting thought. What if we don't try and label it?
Yeah, we'll let go of the story.
Nice.
What if we just leave it?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's cool too.
Or it can be delicious.
It was called all bootylicious. How you feeling? Just bootylicious all the time.
Delicious.
I love how we go from Buddha to bootylicious in about 3 sentences.
It's bootylicious.
Bootylicious.
I was going to say, yeah, one thing that we've been working with quite a few students is this anger is this very, you know, intense feeling, can be.
Are we just going to, sorry, Ryan, are we just going to leave that bootylicious without
I
was just like, come on. It's I don't think you're ready for this anger. I don't think you're ready for this anger. I don't think you're ready for this drama, because my body's so full, bootylicious for you, baby. I mean, come on. That was great.
I've already got a T-shirt line working in my head. I'm like, bootylicious.
I want some royalties. I came up with it.
This Buddha with way too much junk in its trunk.
Oh,
yeah, there's the Buddha. That. You could rub the Buddha's big bum for good luck.
Right. Oh yeah. That's
it's about how do we meet people on their level and introduce them to the Dharma on their level instead of forcing it upon them. We've got to get it into pop culture. We've got to
Buddha's booty. That's how we do it. That's the entry point.
I know what I'm doing tonight. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know. What are you doing tonight?
I'm on Canva creating some bootylicious apparel.
Trademark it.
Yep. Mindfit, bootylicious. Yep.
Drink that in.
Sorry, Ryan, I cut you off, but that was
I don't know if anywhere I can go after that's going to add any value, to be honest.
I've got to finish up because I've got to head off to speak on another podcast, and then
another one's a bit more.
Oh my God! I mean, yeah. I was going to say too, Nick, I've got 2 more lined up after this too. So yeah, I better get running.
Oh, you know, I'll just sit here and
all these appointments, all these podcasts.
No one cares about white blokes anymore. Not even the co-host. Fucking hell.
Interesting. Both your egos just got triggered there. I was just making a factual statement, but your interpretation of it were quite interesting.
I heard that you were going to talk on the number 1, podcast
Finland
for
podcast.
Finland for
Helsinki radio, Helsinki drive time.
Blokes.
Helsinki
radio.
Woke FM from Helsinki. Nick Sutherland.
Nice.
Yeah. All right then, bugger off then.
Oh well.
Yep.
You carry on, but I'm out. I'll see you later.
God.
Whoa!
Bloody hell!
The quick finish.
The quick.
Bootylicious.
He's known for the quick finish.
He did. He rocked it, didn't he?
All right. Should we call it a show, Dan? What should we do?
That was lovely.
Lovely, mate. Lovely to see you again.
It's lovely to see you, mate.
It was lovely.
Until the next time.
Until next time, I'll press stop here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that chat. We'll see you all next week. Peace out.